Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to the Chinese Finger Trap. I had a little bit of a message that I wanted to share with you guys this morning. Today I woke up and it's not particularly unusual for a lot of us going through a lot of the spiritual awakening and dark night of the soul experiences to start our day or wake up into a sort of negative mindset. I'll give you a little example of what my experience was and what my process is to get through it, to move through it quickly, and to find not only a way to move through it, but to actually assert a better quality of mindset moving forward into my day. Now, let me backtrack a bit. Today was an interesting one because I started off my mind laying in bed quite positive, and then something triggered me to think of something a little negative, and I went down the rabbit hole. And this is where the story starts, okay? So, when our minds go into this place of negative thoughts, rumination, which is essentially replaying and rethinking negative thoughts and ideas and beliefs and scenarios from the past over and over and over and over and over in our mind, and what we're essentially doing is drinking a particular sort of poison, hoping that someone else takes it. This is something that a lot of people have expressed to me in my life regarding this. And it's very true because when I say drinking poison, what is it doing to our physical body and our brain chemistry when we're thinking about really negative things over and over and over? Our brain chemistry and our physical chemistry in our system is altering in a way that it's producing chemicals in our body that are really only meant to arise for a moment and then vanish. Fight or flight response is usually what arises in our mind. It's a very anxious and nervous sense when our mind is filled with these negative ruminations of things that happened from the past and a defensive position. And so this poison that we're drinking is literally chemical poison that we're putting into our system by our own doing, which is really a little bit silly once we start to understand that, because no one else is in the room expressing or experiencing what you're expressing. It's just you, right? Now, here's the thing. What I recognize as a lot in the spiritual community and in many practices throughout psychology and mental health and mental well-being practices is don't think about negative things. Avoid them, ignore them, think positive thoughts, these sort of things, right? That's true, but what that's missing is a really key component. Before you can get to the state where that's meaningful, before you can get to the state where it's meaningful to have positive thoughts and to redirect your thought patterns, you have to first be really clear on the negative thought patterns, what they're there for, why they're there, because you'll recognize that a lot of times it's exactly the same conversation in your head over and over and over and over and over and over about the same old crap. And so what we can recognize is there's a really clear message in there. What I always recognize when I, instead of resisting, oh, I'm gonna start with negative thoughts in the day, oh, this is not good, oh, I was feeling so good a minute ago, oh. Instead of resisting that, what I instead do is allow myself to go full on with the negative thoughts. And it's a nuanced expression, it's an internal expression, but what happens is I go into it and it's so extreme in my experience, in my mind. For instance, screw you, screw you, screw you, screw you, screw you. You know, it's like one of those things. But if you really try and, I'm so mad, but I'm not going to express it. You know, you won't really get to the root and the depth of why you're feeling that way. The deeper you dig, and the more you express it totally and fully, you'll realize that it's likely one of the parts of you that's really kind of vulnerable. The part of you that's being so mad and angry and resentful to other people in your mind and from your past experiences is a wounded inner child. It's a little kid. And so the more that you engage with this, not regularly per se, but when it arises, don't try and resist it. Get into the feeling, get way into the feeling. And what you'll notice is that the feeling is being produced by a particular part of you. When you said you felt better earlier, or you might feel better a different part of the day, it's because a different part of you arises in your primary consciousness. So this is why parts work and inner child work is so important, because the part of you that's angry and resentful and defensive, defending you in those past situations, was the vulnerable child that wasn't able to defend you. And so what we have to do is recognize, like, it looks a little silly. It's almost silly because then you start to see, oh, it's just a little kid inside of me going, screw you, screw you, screw you. And it's not the big part of you that's powerful. It's not the highest part of you that's integrated and compassionate and understanding. So when we're in that space, get in that space so that you can more quickly get out of it. Because the sooner you recognize who and what part of you is actually expressing that, you can then nurture that part, right? That's the really important part. Once you recognize that the inner child is the one that is feeling defensive and pained by an experience, we can recognize that it's quite straightforward to bring that part of us in and say, you know what? I don't reject the part of you that wants to punch someone in the nose when they piss you off, because it's just a little kid. You give the little kid a hug. You say, I love you, I accept you, I appreciate you for trying to protect us. But guess what? I'm right here. I'm big. I have a house, I have some money, I can protect you. I've built lots of skills, I can do 100 push-ups in one day. I got this, I can protect you. And you bring that inner child in and nurture that inner child, and it no longer doesn't feel the need to be so defensive. It only feels the need to be defensive because it feels unprotected and vulnerable. So once you start to recognize the vulnerability of that part of you, embrace it, accept it, love it, nurture it, and tell it things like, here's the thing, I'm not telling myself, everything's okay, everything's fine. I'm telling that particular part of me, I've got you. This part of me who is really my dominant part, the dominant part of me, the dominant vibration of me is saying to the inner child, the wounded inner child, I love you, I got you, I can protect you. Look at this beautiful garden. We're not even in that circumstance anymore. Look where I moved to. Look where we live now. Look how we live now. Look at the beautiful friends we have. Look at the experiences we have. Look at the quality of experience that we have in our heart every single day, and the excitement and the joy every single day. You don't need to be defensive anymore, my love. I got you. I've got you. It's okay. That's what that part of us is looking for. That's what the part of us never received. Maybe it never received that explicitly from our environment or our upbringing or our families or our community or our teachers. And so you get to produce that experience for your inner child, maybe for the first time in your life. That's the point. Get into the feelings. Don't avoid them. Don't take the easy route of ignoring those feelings. Those feelings exist for a reason. The quicker you get in them, the quicker you get out of them. And then, after you have reckoned with what part of you is speaking and why it is speaking and what it is saying to you, then you can begin to reassert positive feeling by soothing and nurturing that part of you. Using your positive affirmations to direct them at a particular part versus ambiguous, because this particular part has very particular wounds. It's not vague and unclear, only it's vague and unclear if we don't get to the core of why that inner child is feeling that way. Okay, so I hope that was really useful. I hope it's really clarifying to recognize that when we have negative thought patterns, the best thing that we can do is get into them so deep that they become silly and a little bit ridiculous, because it'll seem so ridiculous compared to the other parts of you, like, oh, this guy's tripping. This little kid in me is tripping. But it's not, because then you can look at your hand and say, where is this experience? Where are these people who hurt me? I don't see them anywhere. Where are they? They're right here. They're right here. And that part of right here is the inner child, or a different part of you that's wounded and injured. And we can nurture those parts, bring them back into our sense of wholeness and become whole. We can become an integrated person because we're trying to integrate all the fragmented parts of us that have been pushed away. Life and society and our parents and our families and our communities and teachers, they all told us, ignore it, which means push it away. Don't engage with it. You can't be safe in this society and be engaged with this part of you, so get rid of it. That's kind of the messaging, right? And so once we get into a state in our lives where we can have a little more control and a little more say in how it goes, we can say, actually, you know what, the healthiest thing to do is to bring that part of me back in so that it's not wreaking havoc secretly in the corner while I ignore it. It's a real part of you. If you saw that child really manifest in front of you, you would give him a hug. You would say, I love you, I get it, dude. Because you were there. You were there in that experience. That inner child was there in that experience, and it knows how bad it was. It knows how painful that was. It knows how unjust maybe that experience was. So to deny that and say, ooh, go away, you don't get to feel bad. You don't get to feel bad. That was too long ago. Get out of here. No, that inner child doesn't have any sense of time. It doesn't have any sense of distance from the experience. All that it knows is that it's hurting. And all that it knows is that all of the rest of you is ignoring it and rejecting it, and it's further scarring that inner child. The inner child was wounded and then neglected by the people around you, and then you. We neglect ourselves more than anyone. So, I hope that's clear for you guys. I hope that's useful insight to reckon with negative feelings, embrace them, accept them as a clear messenger, go to the extreme with them, do it in an appropriate and in a safe way, but recognize that you might start laughing at some point because it's just so ridiculous, and you've played that same tape in your head so many times. All right, guys, I hope that was useful. I hope you find a way to embrace your negative feelings and then assert positive feelings by embracing the part of you that feels negative. Thank you guys so much. Stay well. Peace out.